On today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth, we're going to be talking about decisions that retirees are making where they're really having a regret. We're also going to be dealing with the most challenging planning issues that come with retirement. And that and so much more on today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. Between the two of them, they've got 42 years combined experience in the retirement planning business. You can find them at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick. Each and every week, my privilege to go back and forth with the gentlemen talking retirement. And we usually get into some articles, something that's caught their eye. It's going to be on the cutting edge when it comes to retirement planning. So listen up. There's going to be an opportunity to get on their calendar and talk about your own retirement situation. And the appointments we make available through the radio show, they are complimentary. That means you leave the checkbook at home. And get this, if you grab one, you're not agreeing to become a client, all right? And they're also not agreeing to take you as a client. It's like a test drive. So listen up. Grab one of those appointments. Again, if you got any questions about where you are in your planning process. All right, gentlemen, before we dive into these articles, Casey, we'll start with you. Man, how was your week?
Oh, it's been good. You know, we've been, again, busy around the office, which is great. We've had a lot of new faces in. We've working on hiring a couple of folks. So we've added a couple people to the team recently, which is really nice. And, you know, really we're just able to see that we're broadening the help that we can give people, right? I think that's really the maybe the summary of it all, right? Is we've got such a great team here and such a staff that's so helpful and experts in different fields, which is nice. And it really just allows us to bring all the planning decisions that retirees are facing, right? All those choices, we're able to bring all of that under one roof, which is something that we're really proud about, something that we've worked really hard to do. But yeah, no, things have been really good. It's been good. Yeah.
All right. So the unofficial mayor of Seattle is Mark. So Mark, how have you been?
Yeah.
Just
maybe
ask him,
that
he'll
would
tell
be
you.
good. That might be good for Seattle, actually. No, like Casey said, we're really trying to we've changed actually where we do the radio here. We're also going to be shooting some videos and things, and we're going to bring more video centric, you might say, for our clients to be able to send more videos out and really trying to just use social media a little more. But we don't want to get so wrapped up in that because we don't, AI is on everybody's mind and it's already started. AI has been used to impersonate advisors already in the United States, and that's a worry that we have. And so we just don't want to give up the personal touch with our clients. Mm-hmm. And so that's really, really a key thought for us for this year and going forward is we want clients to know that when they come in and we do a plan, we're going to be the ones doing the plan with them, not pawn them off to somebody else to really do the plan, but it'll be us.
Well, I mean, it's personal, and you guys are in this business to help people as they move to and through retirement, because there are a lot of pitfalls that can come your way just through life. So having a plan, having a fiduciary firm that you can lean into when it comes to your retirement, that gives you confidence as you move towards your retirement date and all the way through what are going to be your retirement years. So listen, we're going to have these appointments. They're going to be complimentary. They're coming up on the program, so stay tuned for that. Now, the articles that we hit, these are just articles that come through the office, and the guys see them and say, you know what, we want to talk about that. So the first one, what do people regret the most when they retire? This is Carrie Hannon pinning this as we get into this new campaign, this new year. But guys, this obviously jumped out at you. I mean, we start thinking about retirement, but man, I tell you, a lot of people have regrets.
Yeah, and I want to just say this, that I love this because this first thing we're going to talk about comes from Nationwide. Everybody knows the jingle, Nationwide is on your side, right? And they told
Wait a minute, are we going to start singing now, or is this part of the program?
No.
Or are you okay? Just checking.
Yeah, but Yahoo Finance was told,
We are not affiliated with Nationwide.
no, we're not.
And if you were, you're not now. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. We just got fired. But the one thing I will say is this study was interesting because they basically made this comment and said more than 8 in 10 workers that were over the age of 45 have serious regrets that they didn't start earlier in saving for retirement. Because Casey and I have talked about this over the years, that there's really 2 types of pain that we're going to have to deal with when it comes to retirement saving and just doing a plan, right? You're either going to have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And I truly believe the pain of discipline and saving money as much as you can before you retire makes a huge difference. Because if you're dealing with the pain of regret, we had a workshop this past week where one sitting in the front row even said she wants to retire now at 62, and all she's going to have is Social Security. Mm-hmm. And what did we, it's not, it was a pretty, I hate to say it, we were Debbie Downers for her a little bit, but the reality is she's not going to have anything but a little bit of Social Security. And to live in this area, if that's all you have, it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, it's going to be a major struggle, right? And that's something where that's not a fun conversation for us either, right? No. We don't enjoy telling somebody that the future might be difficult. But that's why we talk about it, and that's really why this article caught our attention. There's 2 things here that I want to share. First one, quote from the article, says, "Fewer than 1 in 4 retirees are very confident they will be able to maintain a comfortable lifestyle throughout their retirement." The reality is that can come from only 2 things: 1, inflation, and not saving enough, right? And that's really what it is, right? Is not saving enough makes that inflation concern a bigger concern. And then here's another piece from the article: more than 2/3 of retirees wish they would have saved more and on a consistent basis. And you know what? I've said this quite a number of times, but I'll say it again. I don't think you will ever look back and wish that you had saved less for retirement, right? Mm-hmm. So, sometimes we have folks come in that are very disciplined savers. Probably most people that come in are disciplined savers, but we have some folks that are very, very disciplined savers. And they come in and they wonder, am I saving too much for retirement, right? Is there, maybe we should spend a little bit more now? And, the truth of it is that there can be some validity to that, because you want to make sure that you also live your life now, right? We can't be so consumed with retirement that we don't enjoy today. But also at the same time, we have to be careful that we don't enjoy today too much, that retirement really is not going to be fun. So, there is a balance there. But like I said, I don't think you'll ever look back and wish that you had saved less or wish that you had less income in retirement. And so that's, it's the pain of discipline, but that's what removes that pain of regret in the future. And that's really what this article is saying. All the things it mentions really comes back to not having saved enough in retirement, or not having saved enough early in their working career, right? That they could have compound interest and really take advantage of the growth in the market. And so, that's where having a plan, again, becomes the key, right? If you know what you want tomorrow to look like, it's easier to figure out what you need to do today to make that happen. And so having that plan for the future is the key.
I thought there was one more interesting thought really quick, that it mentioned here that many of today's retirees lack the awareness, the know-how, and how to access resources that they need to successfully navigate the retirement arena, right? How many times do we have clients tell us that, Casey, right? They don't know what to do with Social Security. They're not sure about what they should do when it comes to Medicare or Medicaid, if they're in a situation where they might be dealing with a parent that might be sick. They're seeing their assets being eaten up. What's the best way to deal with some estate planning? What's the best way to move money to our children? So we could go on with a few more issues, but that is an issue. And we find that is such an important part of what we do. That's why we educate through workshops that we teach, why we believe radio is so important. That's why we believe television. We're trying to help people know that there are people out here that care and that will help them make these decisions that a lot of people have very little knowledge or understanding. And because it creates so much doubt and concern, they freeze up like a deer does in the headlights, right? Then they don't do anything which can be, they're really making a decision. They're just not making one, but it is doing something, right? They're doing nothing. So again, we don't want people to be in that boat.
Yeah, that's a analysis paralysis, right? We see that a lot. Where, and that's, actually that makes me think of something. The title of our book is called "Break the Glass," and there's a reason that we named it that. It's because if you're ever in a fire type circumstance, it's a frantic situation. There are a lot of decisions to be made, and the question becomes, in which order do you tackle each of these things? And that's why we named it Break the Glass, right? We call it Break the Glass, Fireproofing Your Retirement. And that's what it's like when you're approaching retirement. There are a slew of decisions to make. You don't want to make the right one, and you have to prioritize properly. So, for folks that are listening, we want to offer a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. Included with that, if you come into the office and meet with us, we will also give you a copy of our book, Break the Glass, so feel free to take advantage of that too. We will talk about the investments that you have. We'll talk about what Social Security is going to look like, what you should do for Medicare, how to properly manage your investments to create income in retirement. All of those questions that are circling as you're approaching retirement, those things that make you wonder what retirement's going to be, what it's going to look like. We will address those with you and create a custom-tailored one-on-one individual plan just for you.
All right, the appointments are available right now, and again, they are cost-free. You're not agreeing to become a client. This is an opportunity for you to kind of test drive Elevated Financial Management. Now, the number is 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. And again, you'll get a copy of the book, Break the Glass. 866-668-3625. When we return on Elevate Your Wealth, it's time for more articles that have caught the fellas' eyes, and it's all about retirement. It's coming up next. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. You can find them right here in Seattle. Elevated Financial Management. They've got over 42 years combined experience in the retirement planning business, helping their clients get ready for retirement. They're certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick. Again, we go back and forth on the retirement topics each and every week. And I tell you, we have been hitting some very interesting articles already today. What do people regret the most when they retire? And again, it comes down to money, not saving enough, not getting started with their planning process early enough. So let's be proactive here. Let's talk about planning. So here's the next article from, it looks like Geraldine Klein penned this, the most challenging planning issues. Gentlemen, I mean, obviously you deal with this every day, so this had to jump right out of the page, hadn't you?
Yeah, this was a really interesting article because what they really did with this was they kind of posed this question about what are the most difficult planning issues, and they posed that question to financial advisors. And so they got a lot of response. And there's some in here that we have definitely dealt with and some that are kind of ongoing. The first one is an unexpected early retirement. And we've had this happen for a number of folks that we work with recently with the Boeing layoffs, right? We do have a lot of Boeing clients. And so with those layoffs, whether it be voluntary or involuntary, we've had a number of folks that have been kind of set down an early retirement path. And that's not what they were planning on, and it's not necessarily what they wanted. But the reality is, when you're 62, 63, 64, it can be hard to go find employment that's comparable to what you had when you worked at a company for the last 20 or 30 years, right? So it can be a challenge to find work in the current environment that we're in. And ageism is a real thing, right? I mean, that term exists for a reason. So a lot of people struggle with that. But, an unexpected early retirement really can have a massive impact, right? Because let's say you were planning on taking your Social Security at full retirement age, which for most folks is now age 67.
Yep.
But let's say you were planning on taking your Social Security at age 67, and you've been pushed into an early retirement at 62 or 63. now you've got, if you're still planning to wait to take Social Security, that means you have to live off your own assets between age 62 to age 67 to wait for Social Security to start for you. And then the question is your Social Security enough to live on at that point? And the answer is probably not in our area, right? We live in a very expensive area. And so that being the case, that's a much larger strain on your investments, because you got 5 years to make up for that income that you have to pull from your own investments. Plus, that's 5 years of contributions that you no longer have, right? Because if you're going to now retire at 62 and wait for Social Security at 67, that's 5 years that you didn't get to contribute to your accounts. And so that really does have a massive impact. The alternative to that is, do I start Social Security at 62? Well, if you do that, you're going to take a 25 to 30% reduction in your Social Security, and that has a negative impact on your retirement as well, right? Yeah. So there's really not a good answer in that circumstance. It's really just which one is the lesser of two evils. And, again, that comes down to having a plan. You want to add anything to that, Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've had a client that not too long ago, I could just tell when they came in, we had done their plan and they came in and I could tell something was up. And I asked them, what's going on? And they proceeded to tell me the husband had just been diagnosed with the most aggressive forms of cancer, prostate. And so he had planned on working at least 5 more years. Well, that all changed, just like turning off a light switch, right? Mm-hmm. All of it changed immediately. So now they want to do things together as quick as they can.
It's devastating.
Yeah, it was devastating. And so things like that happened. This article talked about a car accident, how that changed everything for the wife. And on top of that, they needed to get another car. But then they had just refinanced their loan. She wasn't able to work. And so now they're struggling with making the payment, which they didn't really think that out, because we don't think about negative things happening a lot of the time, right? None of us do. If we're being honest, life happens. And so we need to have a plan. These are just some of the things that can come out of nowhere. All of us have been hit at one time or another with some of these things unexpectedly.
Sure.
But you need to plan for this, right? Well, especially in retirement, because if you don't, they can derail you, and you may not be able to recover from it if there isn't some planning that goes into the decisions you've made.
Mm-hmm. We're hitting this article, the most challenging planning issues, and this is coming from advisors from across the country, and what they're dealing with their client. Just to kind of give you an idea, that unexpected early retirement, when you're going to take Social Security, and again, this is a conversation you need to have, and it needs to be involved with your entire planning process, because everybody's different. I mean, we get on and we talk about retirement all the time, but everybody's, again, the path is going to be slightly different from your neighbors or your cousins. There's going to be all these conversations, but you really need to get down to brass tacks. Work with a professional, work with a fiduciary for your situation, because you're going to be different from anybody else's. And these things can pop up. There's another one here. And you mentioned the medical part of it, but there's dementia, there's divorce. Yep. I mean, there's so many things that can come your way. And Mark, you brought up a great point. I think when we're young and we're saving money, we all feel like we're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Yep. And we're not thinking about what if. Right. But boy, I tell you, what if can really get you.
Yeah, and in fact, Casey knows this, but I'm kind of in this business because of watching my grandfather get Alzheimer's, and they pretty much lost everything from a liquid asset position. And in fact, we talked with a client this morning that was dealing with what we call a quadro, qualified domestic order, a divorce. And we really want to focus a lot more in the coming years on especially women. We believe it's an underserved market for women that are going through divorce, or maybe the loss of their spouse. These can create traumatic almost situations that they can be frozen, right? Like Casey mentioned, it's analysis paralysis. They don't know what to do. So they're so stressed out about this. And if you've ever watched a family member deal with Alzheimer's, I know Casey's had it, I've had it. It's just really sad to see someone that we love that was fine mentally, all of a sudden it really starts to get bad. And again, hopefully you'll have a plan, because if you don't, it can be that can be an arena that could blow your plan to smithereens.
Yeah, and the circumstance is and the article kind of talks about this, Morgan, too, right? But we've seen it firsthand with some of our clients where one spouse is dealing with that, and then that's a very expensive, right? Dementia, Alzheimer's, and those are not necessarily something terminal in the next couple of years, right? I mean, that could go on for quite some time.
Expensive too.
Expensive, right? That's it, right? And so now one spouse is spending their retirement being a caretaker of their other spouse, which is not only expensive because there are different things that have to be done, right, to protect the one that's going through that, but it's also not how they envision their retirement either, right? So it's emotionally taxing. It's a lot, right? That is a real challenge. And that's why we always talk about long-term care with our clients, right? It's something that we think every client should have. Not every client does because it is expensive, right? But the question is, it's expensive compared to what, right? Yeah. That's, Mark has always said that, right? It's expensive compared to what? Because, it might cost some money up front, but when you get to a care facility and it costs $14,000 a month, you'll be happy that you have it, right? So that's really the scenario. And so, a lot of what we do, Morgan, right, when it comes to the planning that we do here at Elevated Financial Management, it's all risk-based. It's all purpose-built, purpose-driven. Anybody that's been listening to our show for some time, I hope that you've picked up on the idea that we don't talk about some shiny new fund that we have that averages 8%, and we don't talk about this stock this week and that stock or this bond. That's not the type of planning that we do, right? We're very, very different in that way. And I think that is so important because retirement is not just about what investments you have. It's about making all of those dollars that you save for your retirement work for you in the best way possible. And sometimes that is the best investment management that we can get. Other times it's long-term care. Other times it's helping to create a trust. Other times it's buying the right type of insurance. It's a lot of different things. And that's the point, right? Is everything is purpose-built. And when we talk about a plan, if you think of your statements, if you think of your portfolio, that is all that is. It's a portfolio. It's a statement, but it is not a plan, right? How do you disperse those dollars when the person that you love is dealing with Alzheimer's? How do you disperse those dollars when you're the one dealing with Alzheimer's, right? Whatever the circumstance may be, how do you make sure that money lasts in retirement? How do you make sure inflation and taxes don't annihilate what you've saved? And that's what true planning is about. And that's, this article really just kind of brings out the passion in us because we see people struggle with this. There's a quote in this that I thought was so interesting. Maybe just stay with me on this for a second. From one of the people that was in this study, it says, as financial planners, we don't need to watch TV. We have our clients' issues. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting because that's the truth, right? I mean, it's one thing to hear about these things on radio or TV or read an article about something that somebody's going through, but Mark and I live this. We see this every day. We see people struggle with the things that we talk about on our show. We see it every single day, and that's why we talk about it, right? Because it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, so if you're hearing anything that is ringing home with you, please pick up the phone, call us. If you're dealing with maybe a sick relative or taxes are an issue for you, maybe you need help with what's going to happen to my income, please pick up the phone, give us a call. We're here to help. Leave your checkbook at home. Let's just have a conversation.
And we get it. Look, it can be overwhelming, but you don't have to do this alone, right? Get the plan going. 866-668-3625. Come in and talk about your situation. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, secure an appointment, and you're not agreeing to become a client. This is no obligation. It's a test drive. 866-668-3625. One more time, 866-668-3625. When we return on Elevated Financial Management's Elevate Your Wealth, it's going to be about AI because it's cutting edge. You're going to be interested in this. Stay tuned. Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. They are powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Check out the website. It's a great resource for you, efmnw.com, all letters, efmnw.com. There, again, links to the TV show, our radio show, and podcast form. There's great information there. They are certified financial fiduciaries, all about helping their clients get ready for their retirement. And remember, too, they've got a book, Break the Glass. And if you set an appointment today, we'll make sure you get a copy of that book. We've been hitting articles, the latest from retirement planning, but now we're going to kind of take on a new chapter, and that new chapter is AI, Chat GPT. It's everywhere, folks. I mean, it's absolutely everywhere. And guys, you felt like it was necessary to kind of dive in here.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to start with Social Security a little bit here, because I guarantee every listener that's even close to retirement or maybe retired and haven't turned on Social Security yet, let's talk about some Social Security basics. You'll hear us talk about this all the time because it's never going to go away. I'm 68 years old. I haven't turned my Social Security on, right? So what are some reasons why we may want to delay Social Security? I know a lot of people, there's a lot of noise out there today that says, I got to grab my Social Security at 62.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to grab it because the government's going to mess this up somehow. It's not going to be
Social Security is
around.
going away.
Yeah,
right?
it's going away. Well, I would tell you as a nationally Social Security advisor, that to me is nonsense. It's not going to go away, but there are going to be changes. They've got to do something, and we know that. They've been kicking the can down the road for 30 years, and so changes are coming. I think one of the things that might happen, we may see Social Security full retirement age go to 70 here in the not too long future. That could be one thing they could do. They could also start taxing all of our income in regards to Social Security. Right now, I think this year, I wish I'd have brought the 25 number, but I think it's $170-some thousand.
174 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead, if I make $400,000 a year, I pay on $400,000. That would add quite a bit to the coffer, right? So there's some things to think about. But here's something that I want to think or take some time to talk about. 62 versus, let's say, 66. Why wait? Well, number one, you're not going to be dealing with a 25 to 30% reduction permanently in your Social Security, right? That's a big deal. But we may be in a situation where if I do retire at 62 and I don't take Social Security, I got to find, like you mentioned earlier in the last segment, possibly 4 to 5 years before I can turn Social Security on. So how do I do it? Well, here's something to really think about. From a tax perspective, we may want to go ahead and get into our 401k at 62, start taking the amount of money that we need to live that our Social Security would have generated for us, but take it out of our qualified plan. Because wouldn't it be cool if you could take that out, pay the lowest amount of tax on it that you're ever going to see in your lifetime, and let the Social Security build up, because we know that depending on how old you are, it's going to be growing at anywhere from 6 to 8% every year. That's guaranteed. Your 401k is not guaranteed to grow like that, right, Case?
Nope.
So again, this is something where some planning really does matter, and we can help maybe walk some folks off of the ledge that are thinking, oh, I just got to get it now because I won't live long enough. Now, there may be some very legitimate reasons why we should go, right? Mm-hmm. We know health history, things like that. But talk about it with someone that can help us really know the facts, because if you don't, you could be making a decision that could cost you several $100,000 because you made an emotional decision instead of one that was maybe based on true fact.
So you use that term, kind of walk somebody off the ledge, right? And that's a reference to just an overly emotional decision, right?
Yes.
That's really what that is, right? And the reality is it's funny. Money is not inherently an emotional thing, but it creates a lot of emotion, right? That's the number one thing argued about in marriages and relationships. And so when it comes to Social Security, it's the same thing, right? People make overly emotional decisions without considering the facts and without an outside opinion. And, it's kind of like, by no means am I advocating or going against therapy here, but it's the same kind of idea, right? If you go see somebody who's a disinterested third party that can provide some kind of value, right? And that's what we do day in and day out, right? Is offer some kind of advice that maybe it's just a different way to look at your circumstance that you haven't looked at it before, right? And it's somebody who is not currently in the throes of that decision themselves. And so it's easier to provide sound, level-headed thinking. And that's so important. And I think all too often with the financial world, that's considered to be not as valuable. But the reality is it's probably more valuable in that circumstance than most, because finance is not just black and white. How your emotions play in and how those dollars affect your life and the way that you live your life and the decisions that you make are very, very important and cannot be understated.
Well, go ahead, Morgan. Well, I was just going to say one. Well, sorry, I was just going to say one thing really quick.
You guys are both out of control.
Yeah, I was just.
We're
gonna
excited.
Say
We want to talk about it.
Right.
Go ahead.
people tend to stick a much higher degree of emotional attachment to their 401k versus the Social Security. They just look at that differently. Yeah. And we just taught a class and we talked about that. And everybody pretty much agreed that 401k, because they stuck it in there, they hopefully got a match, but they see that money differently, where the Social Security just got taken out of their check. It goes into this black hole somewhere to give them a benefit down the road, but it's still in there. And so that emotional attachment is something we work on with every client to get them to say, maybe I should take it out of my qualified money, pay a lower amount of tax, and in the long run, they're going to come out ahead. But unless you help them see that, they just usually are going to pick taking money out of Social Security first, when that may not be the smartest way to do it.
Well, it's about planning. You guys talk about it each and every week, and a lot of people look at Social Security and like, well, I'm going to get there, I'm going to take it. It's going to be, it's going to be the sum of money, but it needs to work within your plan. There needs to be a strategy. And how you're going to do it and how it all fits together, and everybody's different. So having a customized plan and how you're going to optimize your Social Security, very, very key. And again, just these are top, the top topics concerning retirement that, the big bad machine out there, AI, has thrown at us. Casey, we'll just ask you, what off of this list, which one kind of jumps out to you? We just did Social Security. Where are you going to go now?
It's actually one that really kind of ties in with what we were just talking about, which is the emotional side of retirement, right? So not just the emotional side to our finances and how that affects our decisions, but really retiring to something. And I think this doesn't get talked about enough. Yeah. All too often, right? I mean, think about it. The story is maybe not uncommon that somebody retired and then they passed away in a relatively short time frame, right? And health and things like that come into play there, but there's also something that I think gets missed, which is that some people retire and they just kind of sit around. And that's really not the golden years, right? That's not why you saved the money that you saved. You definitely saved the money so that you don't have to go back to work, but you really should be out doing things. And this is where the pressure is on us as planners to ask people, what do you want to do in retirement, right? And it's not just, I want to sit on the beach and, drink a margarita. And that's great.
Play golf every day.
Ultimately, those things get boring over time, right? And if you're not a good golfer, like I'm not, golfing on day one is boring, right? So it doesn't take very long for that.
I don't know. Mark just hit my retirement plan. I mean, that's what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. Yeah. But, I think that's really important, right? Having either exploring passions that you've had in the past that you have not been able to spend time on, or finding something new, finding a new passion, a new hobby, staying socially connected. Yeah. Gosh, that's so important, right? Yeah. We are social creatures, whether we want to admit it or not, right? We might be the most introverted person, but the reality is you have somebody in your life that you're close to. That's a social relationship, and it is very, very important, right? And so we can't just leave the workplace and think everything's just going to continue on without a plan. So we need a plan not only for the finances, but we need a plan for our time, right? What are we actually going to do?
Yeah, it's funny. I looked at an article here a couple weeks ago, and it's so important that planners around the country really get educated about the difference they can make in their clients' lives when we help them to maybe figure some of this stuff out. Maybe new passions, like Casey mentioned. What do you want to do with your time? What are you going to do what about if there's staggered retirements? Maybe the husband retires, but the wife still has to work, right? This can create some challenges, right? All of these different type of scenarios are part of what I believe a true retirement planner is going to help their clients and students learn and educate them, so that some of these things that are going to cause problems aren't near as big because they've talked about them. They figured out a way to deal with the emotional side of retirement planning because it's so much more than just the money.
Oh, it is. I mean, and you brought it up. I mean, the emotional side, and we complain about our jobs, or at least some people do, and you think about retirement your entire working life, but then you get into retirement and a lot of your social network is at work. And all of a sudden you've got to make that adjustment. So you need to really think about that emotional side.
Yeah, it does. It has to be part of the plan. And I think that's something, and the reason I say this is because Mark and I are very proud of this. It's something that we've worked very hard to do. We are not just investment advisors. We are true retirement planners. And with that comes a conversation surrounding what do you want to do in retirement? What do you want your Monday through Sunday or Sunday through Monday or whatever you want to look at it? What do you want that to look like? What do you want to do, right? Because it's really about making sure that the finances fit your life, not fitting your life into the finances that you have. And so, if you've been a good saver, this is your opportunity to get a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. Along with that, we'll include a copy of our book, Break the Glass, when you come into the office and see us. And we'll talk about what you want retirement to look like. When should you take Social Security? How are taxes going to affect your retirement nest egg? How's inflation going to impact your lifestyle in retirement? We'll talk about Medicare and what the options there are for you. We have an in-house Medicare specialist. So don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Give us a call.
All right, the appointments are available right now. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call, grab one of these appointments. Again, no obligation, leaving the checkbook at home. 866-668-3625. At each appointment, come on in. You get a copy of their book, Break the Glass. 866-668-3625. When we return, it's time for Retirement Scenarios. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back into Elevate Your Wealth, powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Your hosts are Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. They got over 42 years combined experience in the retirement planning business, helping their clients get ready for their retirement. They're certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick. Each and every week, it's always the importance of being ready for retirement, having that plan, being proactive. And here on the show, we talk the talk, but we also walk the walk. We give you an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management, and these appointments that we open up for our radio listeners are complimentary. That means you're leaving the checkbook at home. That means you're not agreeing to become a client. It's a great way to test drive the firm, see if it's a good fit, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to see if you're a good fit for them. So this is a great way to educate yourself on planning. And if you are in the middle of something, it's a great opportunity for a second opinion. You can grab an appointment at any time. 866-668-3625. We'll give out the number a number of times during this portion of the program. 866-668-3625. All right, gentlemen, scenario number one. I'm still working, but thinking about claiming Social Security right now. I'm 63. What's the downside? Mark, I think this is a great place for you to jump in.
Yeah, well, we talked about a little bit about Social Security earlier, but I would say for us, probably 85 or 90% of the time, we try and convince a client not to do it. Now, there are varying circumstances. We talk about this all the time. Your situation is very unique to you, right? But if there's a possibility of not doing it, one of the big downsides is you can figure if they're 63 here, they're going to lose about 20%, 22% forever. And that's a lot of money that's going to have to be given up, and it's a permanent reduction. But this is another downside that doesn't get talked about enough is the earned income test. And what does that mean? If you go, let's say at 63, and you find out after 6 months you're bored and you'd like to maybe work part-time or find something else you enjoy doing, you have to look at how much money you're going to make. The bottom line is it's a little over $23,000 this year. For every $2 you make over that, they're going to make you pay back $1 of your Social Security. That's a 50% penalty. So why would you do that unless you absolutely need the money to live. Because if you do, well, then going early, we got to do it, right? That's okay. But again, a lot of people are doing it because they think they won't live long enough, or they heard that it's going away, and they make these emotional decisions that aren't necessarily totally factual, right? And so you want to make a good, educated decision based on your individual circumstances. But, you know, there's just pros and cons, and that's, you need to really sit down with someone that can help you look at this, you know, realistically.
I had to step out and take a phone call, so I'm sorry if I missed it, Mark. But did you talk about the earned income test?
Yep.
Okay, you did. Yeah. That's really a big piece to this puzzle, right? Is making sure that if you are going to start Social Security while you're working, that you don't hit that limit, because that's something hidden that a lot of people miss. They start their Social Security and then they get hit with that penalty. So not only do they take a reduction, but now they're getting a reduced Social Security amount because of the earned income test. And so again, right, it's just about having a conversation to understand and be educated. And that's why our practice is built the way that it is. It's built on education, because that's how you make a proper decision, is you become educated about the circumstance, you become educated about the options.
We are in the middle of our scenarios, and want to remind you that these scenarios come from across the country, and you might hear one that's similar to what you're going through. But as we talk each and every week, it's so important to understand that you're different, right? Your situation is going to be completely unique to you, so you need to have a customized plan. You need to work with a fiduciary advisor where you can lean in, ask questions, get answers, formulate that plan to get you through not only to retirement, but through your retirement. Now, an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management. It's ongoing during the course of this show. All you've got to do to get a complimentary appointment is call the number 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. All right, next scenario, gentlemen. Here it is. Okay, I often hear about steady income. You got to have steady income in retirement. How do you build steady income?
Well, that's a great question. There's a number of ways that can be done. The reality is I just want to touch on the importance of steady income again, right? Because we do talk about that a lot. We talk about folks that are fortunate enough to have a pension, and how that has just a major impact. I mean, there's a couple clients that come to mind that just have stellar pensions. We have somebody that's got about $9,000 a month from their pension, just as a singular pension. Their spouse has another smaller pension. Then they have Social Security. So we have some clients that have $15,000 a month in guaranteed income. If you knew that you had $15,000 a month coming in, well, gosh, there's not a whole lot to worry about when the market struggles, or, as long as your spending is less than 15, you'll be just fine. You can make it through the month, right? So that guaranteed income is so important. Now, we see a lot of folks will try and create income from the market using stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, things like that. And they can create income. But the reality is that the market is still the market, right? So when it does well, it's great, but everything's great until it's not, right? So when the market starts to struggle, then our income is going to start to struggle, right? Or we have to potentially make some kind of adjustment in our lifestyle, or spend less, or, whatever that circumstance might be. And so I'm going to mention a word here that sometimes is considered to be a bad word, but that's annuities, right? The A word in the financial world, right? So, we do use annuities sometimes to create guaranteed income for clients. That's not the only thing that can be used, but we do know that those annuities create guaranteed lifetime income. And that is what people are really looking for in retirement. And if you look at the amount of money that's flown into, or flown into annuities in the last couple years, record-breaking numbers.
Why do you think that is, Casey? Why do you think that's happening?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think number one, with interest rates high, that makes an annuity look really good, right? And does perform very well. And I think also uncertainty. I think that's really what it is, right? People are nervous about a correction in the market, and rightfully so. I mean, we've been on a bull market for 14 years, 15 years, right? And so there has to be a reckoning at some point, right? We all understand this. If you go back to 1929, there's been 16 bear markets in that time frame. On average, one happens every 5 years. Well, we've been on a bull run for longer than 12, right? 13, 14, 15 years. So it's coming. And when it does, is your income in retirement set up to take a hit of that kind, right? A 39% loss is the average loss back to 1929. So in that circumstance, right, we really have to find a way to decorrelate our assets from the market. That's the key here, right? When it comes down to it, yes, dividends can be great, and we use dividends. Yes, bonds can create income, but what is going to create the highest level of guaranteed income that will continue and be sustainable despite what happens in the market? And that's really the key. So, when you think of somebody who has a pension, or when you think of Social Security, those are annuities. When you fill out your pension paperwork, it says annuity on the paperwork, right? So there are some folks that just have a sour taste in their mouth because they've heard things about annuities. And I'll tell you what, I agree with you to a great extent when we're talking about variable annuities, because they are costly. They do not provide the benefits that we're talking about. They are still open to market risk. But this is the key. Just because one annuity is bad doesn't mean that they're all bad, right? Yeah. I mean, it's the same as anything else. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So you've got to take the time to be educated and understand how it fits in for you. And there are circumstances where the annuity is not the right option for you, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't know until you have the conversation and you keep an open mind to understand what that potential benefit is to you. And again, that's the point of having a conversation.
Most everybody that we talk with would say, I want as many pensions as I could get my hands on. And Casey just mentioned it. That's still an annuity. Every pension is, because it does something that nothing else can do. It provides an income that you cannot outlive. It's going to pay both if you've set it up right. For a husband and wife, it's going to protect and provide income for both of those lifetimes. So it's a paycheck for life. Because what is one of the biggest stresses when people retire? We know what it is. Their paycheck stops. Mm-hmm. Whether they got a weekly, semi-weekly, monthly, that stops. That creates stress. So if you can replace that paycheck with another check that pays them for life, boy, does that change everything. So all I know, I wish I was going to have a bunch of pensions. I'd take as many as I could get my hands on. And everybody could tell me, oh, I don't want those. Well, you know what? When they really think about it and they understand them, everybody would tell you, I want as many pensions as I possibly can get, which is annuities. No matter what anybody else says, that's what a pension is. It's an annuity.
Talking about steady income in retirement, multiple income streams. There's that confidence as you move through your retirement. And speaking of income streams, here's another one. We'll hit this really, really quick. Here's the scenario. Thinking about venturing into real estate as another income stream, what is the best approach here, gentlemen?
Yeah, well, this is one that what I'm going to say to that is if you want to be a landlord, that's A-okay, right? We've got clients that own real estate. We actually just had a client sell his 4-unit apartment complex. And the interesting thing about that, his income that's going to be generated now is going to be more with a guaranteed private pension than what he was getting in the 4-unit rentals, the rent, right? So again, if you want to be a real, own real estate to create income, that's okay, and it can be done. But if you want to get into it later in life, there can be some stress there because it's not all gravy. All I know is I look at when COVID was happening and real estate agents here were struggling and owners to pay their mortgage. All I can say is this: if you're out there and you've heard anything today, whether it be about taxes, what about, we just talked about real estate. Do you want to be buy real estate to create income? Whatever it is, we just talked about the need for guaranteed income. Let our team of certified financial planners put together a plan for you that's going to create everything that you need and want in retirement. Let us help you. Give us a call, pick up the phone, and call us, and we'll put together a plan with you.
Opportunity to talk about your own scenario right now. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Again, you're getting a copy of Break the Glass, as well as just an opportunity to talk about your own situation. There is no obligation. You're not agreeing to become a client. This is a test drive. 866-668-3625. That'll get you in touch with Elevated Financial Management. Grab you one of the appointments. 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth is in the books. For the guys, that would be Mark. That would be Casey. I'm Morgan. See you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.